Joining me now is Susan Page, Washington Bureau Chief for USA Today. She's joining us from Washington. Susan, we just heard Donald Trump at the CIA yesterday attacking the media for its coverage of crowd sizes. And then there was Press Secretary Sean Spicer in a briefing later on Saturday, again blasting reporters for their coverage of the crowd sizes at the inauguration. Seems like newsworthy material because Donald Trump himself likes to discuss crowd sizes. However, the reaction from the administration was particularly intense. What do you think is going on here?
I think it's perplexing because, there's no question who won the election. Donald Trump won the election. He was inaugurated on Friday. He is now president of the United States. And yet he himself, in this early appearance and standing on hallowed ground, standing in front of the memorial wall at the CIA that honors those who lost their lives in service to our country, he questions the accuracy of news coverage on the crowd size at the mall. And one problem with this is that we know that the reports on crowd size are accurate, that his crowd size was smaller than Barack Obama's during his first inauguration, and that there were fewer people out on the mall to the degree we care about that. So I think it's surprising that President Trump has been so sensitive on this point.
Yeah, the reporting on crowd sizing is based on estimates from experts, the side-by-side pictures, the turnstile admissions on the subway there in Washington. These are pretty traditional and standard ways of knowing something like a crowd size. Do you think these criticisms from the administration are an attempt to undercut the traditional ways of knowing and reporting reality?
I think that it has the effect of raising questions among Trump supporters about whether you can believe what you read in the mainstream media. And this has, of course, been a theme through the campaign. And we know that the approval ratings for the news media have gone down. A lot of people do not trust the news media. Donald Trump has even suggested, I guess Sean Spicer said this, I don't know if Trump himself said it, that the press doctored photos, framed the photos to make it look like the crowds were smaller than Barack Obama's crowds. That is not accurate. The photos that were not doctored or framed in a special way showed the difference in the crowd size to the degree it matters. I mean, the fact is there are other things happening with what the new president is doing on policy that are more important to Americans than this. But it is true that for 24 hours, this has been what we've been talking about. Yeah,
it's interesting to point out trust in the mainstream media. There are those Pew survey results. We are at a low ebb. It hasn't been this low since the Nixon administration. But interestingly enough, by the end of that administration, there was a peak. So we may be heading in a different direction by the end of the next 4 years. Moving on, we are seeing reports that Mr. Trump is set to announce the move of the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv, where it has been for many, many years, to Jerusalem, a contested place. What would this move mean politically?
Well, this would be, of course, consistent with campaign promise he made to move the embassy to Jerusalem. That is actually a promise that previous presidents have made during campaigns, but none of them have ever delivered on it because it has been seen as a matter for final negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians on what happens in Jerusalem. So it certainly takes sides with Israel on an issue that's been really at the center of the debate and trying to get to some kind of resolution in the Middle East. So as I said, consistent with his campaign promise, but a dramatic step that previous presidents have shied away from making.
So then is it fair to say then that if he does make this move, we will be in uncharted territory?
Yes, I think that's true. And I think it makes it harder to visualize a situation where the negotiations with the Palestinians can come to a successful conclusion because you've taken off the table one of the big issues that has been traditionally seen as a matter for final negotiations if you get close to a peace deal.
Now, in some developing news, we have Senators John McCain and Lindsey Graham saying they will, in fact, vote to confirm Rex Tillerson as Secretary of State. Both men had been vocal about their concern with Tillerson. What do you make of this turnaround?
A big step ahead for Rex Tillerson on his path to becoming confirmed as Secretary of State. We're still waiting for Marco Rubio, the Republican senator from Florida, who was one of the harshest questioners of Rex Tillerson at those confirmation hearings. We don't know what he's going to do. But if John McCain and Lindsey Graham are with Rex Tillerson, I think it is very likely that he's going to be confirmed in pretty short order.
All right, Susan Page joining us from Washington on a long weekend there. Susan, thank you.